This is Bazaar Morning Call, broadcasting live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios in Mumbai.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. It's a Friday morning. We're all maybe a little sleep deprived, but not too much. But happy. We are, of course, coming to you live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Prashant, with me, my colleague Surabhi and Nigel. Guys, hi, morning.
Good morning, guys, and compliments to both of you. Both of you kept me great company throughout what was a fantastic evening at the India Business Leader Awards. So much excitement, so much energy, lots of people networking, and of course, celebrating the winners.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, indeed, it was a great evening. You had people from all walks of life, whether it was political, industrialists, and it had something for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was with regard to their journey or a couple of takeaways as well. Spend more time with family as you're growing up as well. So I think that as well did hit me. So.
And take your people along with you, Mr. T.V. Narendran. Some fantastic thoughts.
It's time for me to give
through.
back to, So.
I mean, people from all walks of life, right? Sports. I mean, Mr. Azim Premji was there. I've not
Yes.
seen him at an event in a
I don't know how
long
many
time.
years,
I mean,
yeah.
He doesn't talk to the media anymore, but he was there and he
Yes.
did share a lot of stuff. So we'll, of course, play out snippets as the day goes along. But the markets, right? That's the subject at hand. So let's start there. And, the point is that tomorrow is the big Q. Once again, which is the Karnataka election results. I'm going to preface everything else with this right on top because I think that is what's going to play on the market's mind. The exit polls are in. As I said, if the final result tomorrow is dramatically different as compared to what the exit polls show, maybe on Monday you get a bit of a reaction. It may, in any case, keep things quiet. It's an important state. It's a large state election, and this is kind of kicking off the political cycle all the way into 24. So it kind of focuses the mind in that direction. In any case, I mean, it's not as if global cues are sparkling, right? Global cues are very subdued. You had the US session, which was down. The S&P was down about 0.17%. Data was soft, both the producer price index number and the initial jobless claims. So PPI softened more and initial claims rose more than expected. And it basically shows some weakness, economic weakness. This, of course, after the labor market data, which was, it was kind of mixed, not really clear one way or the other. The regional bank troubles continue in the US. So you had one large regional bank saying that they lost some 9.5% of their deposits in, 1 week. The week ended 5th of May. So that is keeping things on the boil on that front. Many have said, well, that's the thing to focus on to determine whether the US will see a hard landing, a soft landing, or no landing at all. Now, the price action was interesting. The 2-year slumped. It hit 3.8%. That's a psychologically important support. And then it kind of moved back up a little bit to near 3.9%. The dollar index rose. I mean, data was not supportive for a rise in the dollar, but I think this is positioning led. We are back above the 102 on the dollar index. Out of China, data has been weak, and many are kind of focusing on that to say that the Chinese recovery comes into question because of the very low inflation numbers and, of course, the credit data as well. Copper futures. So yesterday, for example, metal stocks like Hindalco, etc., sold off. Overnight, copper futures have hit a new 2023 low. So we'll talk more about this and the implications here on. Important for the metals complex here in India. Now, let's just come to the levels, which are not very different because the market's not done very much. So the levels stay intact on the Nifty and the Bank Nifty on the upside and downside. Resistance for the Nifty comes in at about 18,450. That is a 78.6% retracement of the entire fall. And on the way down, there is a steep rising channel. The lower end of the channel is at about 18,200. It's not very far from where we are. 18,195 to be precise is the point where it meets the lower end of the channel. The Bank Nifty, and we were talking about this intermarket divergence where the Nifty is making higher highs, the Bank Nifty is not. Yesterday, it attempted to do it. It bounced intraday above the previous high last Thursday, 43,740, but then failed to close above it. So that becomes the immediate level to take out on the upside. On the way down, supports for the Bank Nifty come in at the 20-day moving average, 42,772. And the low, last Friday's low when the market sold off was 42,582. So enough and more to keep markets kind of focused in that sense. But I want to kind of end with what I began with, election results, state election results tomorrow. Indices have shown the tendency to be a little quiet last couple of days. I think that may continue. But that doesn't prevent stocks from flying, right? I mean, we've seen that yesterday. We've seen that over the last couple of days. Mid caps, small caps. I mean, the energy, the action, it's all there. Surabhi.
Oh, well, absolutely, Prashant. Politics, right? Sometimes it just ends up becoming one of the biggest cues for the market. You can never write it off.
Yeah.
Speaking of politics, just to add to what you said on the US, this whole business around the debt ceiling, we've not actually discussed it at all because it's something that we've come to expect year after year. It's the same sort of, if I could use the term, drama that plays out. But I just wanted to add the quote on the voices on the street on this one, because Mr. Jamie Dimon now added to the chatter yesterday. He said that as you get closer to the deadline, you will perhaps have some amount of panic setting in the market if this is not clarified. Just to point out, by the way, there was supposed to be a meeting today between President Joe Biden and a couple of these Congress leaders. Now, that's been postponed, not indefinitely. It's been postponed to next week, so it speaks. The producer price, of course, details Prashant mentioned. So that's another good news on the inflation front. But the politics front and debt ceiling, it's still confusing. You have a lot of high decibel chatter around it. For instance, Mr. Jamie Dimon yesterday coming out and saying that markets could perhaps panic and there could be more volatility if this is not sorted out quickly enough as you're getting closer to the deadline. Potential default, so to speak, could be around the 1st of June if they don't sort it out. But they typically always do it at the 11th hour. That's the market's expectation. Copper, as Prashant mentioned, prices at a 6-month low, and we saw that play out in the stocks, and we'll hear more from Nigel on this as well. This is all China. Remember the inflation numbers that came out of China, the sense of demand perhaps that's weighing down on this part of the market. FII's net buyers again yesterday, about 800 odd crores, 837 crores is what they've bought. Net. I think domestic institutions were net sellers to about 200 odd crores. Just the levels this week, I mean, look at for all the action, all the movement. This is how much? 35 points on the Nifty. That's all you've got from Monday's close to yesterday's close. So no follow through from what we saw on Monday. And it's just been ambling along, at least at the index level. Quick, check on the earnings calendar. We didn't have too many big numbers after markets yesterday. But today it's a packed session. So, from the index, you will hear from some of the biggies like Tata Motors. There's DLF, there's Manappuram, Polycap, some interesting mid-caps as well that we'll look out for. IGL. And I put IOB in the end. Apart from earnings, want to see if now other banks beyond Canada start talking about this ECL provisioning. If there's any more chatter from PSU banks, that would be something interesting to track. But Nigel, I remember you saying this yesterday as well. You were saying that you're at these levels, markets had a decent run, maybe people want to take some money off the table. And I guess at least in terms of index positioning, we saw that. It was just a fair amount of caution that continued to play out.
Well, so it'd be always good to get a call right? Yesterday, I said that the markets are opening 40, 50 points higher. Won't hurt anyone. Take the money off the table. Prepare yourself for a good weekend. And, I'm preparing myself for a good weekend. I'm taking my son for the IPL game today. Mumbai Indians take on Gujarat Titans. So I'm looking forward to that game. So cricket's on my mind. But keeping in that sort of a backdrop, it's a good time, I think, to just leave the ball. A ball well left, so as they call it.
That's also an art, right?
Yeah, instead of just smashing every ball. So I think today is that sort of a day, right? Though we're going to be starting off a little bit on the back foot. You have a big event over the weekend. You get the Karnataka election results. There's that chatter with regard to the debt ceiling. So why not just leave the ball and come back on Monday and, take fresh talk about how the pitch is panning out, how the conditions, and how many runs you need to put on the board. Stock focus, though, will continue. And yesterday we saw that. Though the Nifty ended a little bit lower, it was weekly expiry as well that played out. You had the mid-cap and the small-cap indices that returned in good style. So that was contrast to what we saw in the previous session. So stock focus will continue. Index could consolidate. Institutional flows, well, they're positive, mind you. The FI flows, though, they're tapering off a little bit in comparison to what we have seen for a 10-day average. So yesterday, yes, the FIs were buyers, but that was less than half the average that we see in the previous 10 sessions. Net institutions as well, that's the DI and the FI put those numbers together. They were buyers as well, but that was much lower if you compare that with the 10-day average. The FIs in the F&O market, well, they added some short position, close to around 8,000 contracts. I like that, mind you. I hope that they add more amount of short positions because if the flows are not going to support, then that will be one of those levers to push us higher. Short positioning now at around 52% odd. Moving to the options data, we have seen when the PCR moves to the upper end of the band, then in fact we see some bit of resistance that's creeping in there. And from around that 1 odd level, it's moved to around 1.3. It's getting closer to around that 1.4, which is the upper end of the band. Writing was seen at around that 18,300 call in yesterday's trading session, added close to around 30 lakh shares, premium out there around 116 rupees. So that's giving you the resistance level. Yesterday as well, we ran into resistance of around 18,350 to around 18,400. Near-term support will be around 18,150, 18,200, as I said yesterday as well. The Nifty Bank, that's been playing a very, very good knock. It's been in fine form, but how much more can it do from these levels? Yesterday, it went to around 43,800 odd, and from there, it saw some bit of resistance. It has that 52-week high on its mind. For the time being, though, we're close to around 600 points away from those levels. So the Nifty Bank could yet outperform, but how much more can it do? That's the question. SGX Nifty suggesting a bit of a pullback. I think today is one of those days where you sit out of the index, focus on individual stocks, and come back on Monday and take fresh stock.
All right. Broader markets are where all the action is, and if you're getting stocks there right, you're still making money. Before we go any further, let's quickly tell you what's lined up here in the first half hour of the show. We get you updates from markets across the globe. Arvind Sanger of Geosphere Capital Management will join in to discuss the trade setup, how he's seeing things. Our research team gets you the top 10 stocks of the day. Lots of earnings to tackle as well. At 8:30 this morning, Nishchal Maheshwari of Centrum Broking comes in with his thoughts on markets.
Okay, so let's kick it off as always with the equity call of the morning. This one's coming in from Gautam Dugar of Motilal Oswal, who says the market has no big triggers left and may now remain in a range. He says the Nifty was up 7% since the start of April, while the small cap index is up 11%. So now, due to lack of any trigger, market could digest gains till any material trigger comes along. He says they haven't seen any major upgrades or downgrades from earnings this time. Their top picks from the earnings season is the financial space along with autos. That includes names like ICICI Bank, SBI, Bank of Baroda and IndusInd Bank. Gautam says in autos, they like M&M and Tata Motors. He adds that they have downgraded Eicher Motors this morning despite good numbers due to the impending threat from Triumph's launch and also fair valuations for Eicher.
Okay, let's get you some money market views as well. We have Lakshmanan V of Federal Bank, who says the annual rate of inflation in the US fell for the 10th straight month to two-year lows of 4.9%. However, he says the US dollar strengthened across the board and pushed the rupee to a two-week low of 82.09 yesterday. He says the focus remains on today's domestic inflation print, expecting the USD INR pair to trade in a range of between 81.85 to 82.5 to a dollar for the next few trading days.
On bonds, Mr. Lakshmanan says with the Indian CPI data expected below 5%, the 10-year benchmark may soften below 7% from the current levels of 7.02%. He expects the continuous supply of government bonds and also future risk on inflation outlook due to fear of disruption in the monsoon will be an overhang on bonds, and rates may not sustain below 7% for long.
Well, we have a lot of stock-specific action to track for you, and we'll get to that in a wee bit from now in our special Top 10 segment. But we have a whole host of stocks: Kotak Mahindra Bank, Max Healthcare, HAL, Sona BLW Precision, Siemens, you have GSPL, Deepak Nitrite, Eicher Motors, Zensar Technologies. They are stocks on the back of positive news flow, while we have Indus Stars that will be reacting to negative news flow.
Okay, that's basically what's lined up here on the show. Well,